Welcome into the Sports Shuffle. I am Flying Ryan Gogers, along with,
And promote about Joel Verlin.
and we're gonna talk about the fantasy football week that was. A few more
Good,
X's on the boards behind me, more than I'd
good,
like to
good,
admit.
good God. I mean, my week summed up with the hashtag Jonathan Taylor's ankle. Oh boy! And then I was waiting for Monday night, and I'm going, come on, Christian Watson, do something. I just need 5 or 6 points. I just need 5 or 6 points. I just
Um,
need as you're
got it.
looking as you're but it was slow go in the first quarter because you're just waiting for the Green Bay offense to get warmed up and do something. And then finally it happened, and I'm like, okay, so one team I'm out, one team I'm in, one team the 16 team where I had no freaking shot whatsoever, not much of a surprise. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling kind of good. I'm not thinking anything about quarterback until I see the Jalen Hurts shoulder separation start to trend in.
Yeah,
And that's when you have the Star Wars. I have a bad feeling about this, but it didn't seem serious to start with, but then you saw the posts out for two possible games.
that's the
Good
rest of the
God.
fantasy season.
You're just like, oh my freaking God. So, of course, I immediately you're checking okay, so what are my options? And what my one thought was, it's a good thing it wasn't the 16 team league because you were just like, okay, so hit the self destruct button. You probably have zero options in the 16 team league. And even the 10 team league options were slim pickings because I tell you, I'm going, I can't believe I'm putting in and hoping for a waiver wire claim for Daniel freaking Jones because I'm going, well, it's a good matchup. It could be good fantasy wise. And then, of course, that was rejected as I checked the email and you have an unsuccessful waiver claim. Why you insert the Price is Right fail sound here? And
Yeah,
then
boom, boom, boom.
I'm putting all my hopes and fantasy dreams and fantasy destiny to make it to the next round with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
So tell me if you have a harder, tough luck fantasy luck story than that.
Well, I'm out in 5 leagues as of this week.
Ooh.
Um, I did lose one where I had Tyler Lockett and Jonathan Taylor go down. I lost by like 34, so I don't know if for
Ooh.
36. I don't know if I can win that either way with those guys. The guy who beat me is one of the favorites to win the whole thing, and I had an injury plague season. So that one didn't bother me. The two that bothered me were the 16 team, which I'm out because the Bucks defense decided not to show up in the second half. And I was playing against Chase and Burrow. And then
Touchdown,
Cam
fumble.
Akers.
Touchdown, fumble. Touchdown,
Yeah,
fumble.
Cam
Touchdown.
Akers having his best game of
Interception.
the year in the passing game in a PPR format that knocked me out of the 16 teamer. That one wasn't great. And I need Christian Watson to get 5 or 6. Well, I was playing against someone who need Christian Watson to get 5.3,
Oh,
and they got it on the last pass of the game in garbage time, up 12 to knock me out. So those two really, really hurt. Now, the positives, I am still in a couple dynasty leagues where I've got a good shot of winning both, which hopefully we will. One of them's got a nice cash prize. I'm still alive in the Megla Bowl, which I haven't talked about as much as last year. I didn't get as high yet, but only 2 weeks left, and I still have a chance of winning. You never know what can happen. Top 1,700 out of 18,000 so far, so not a bad year, and that's with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Aaron Rodgers and A.J. Dillon in my lineup most of the year. So hey, it's not too bad. And then a bunch of ESPN leagues that have the 2 week playoffs. 3 out of the 4 of those, I look like I'm going to steamroll. So, kind of a mixed bag. So, just a couple tough ways to lose this week.
yeah, because it's bad when an injury totally just absolutely shuts you down and you have no shot whatsoever because you think about how many potential points Taylor could have had. It's just, I mean, that's just brutal.
Yeah, we'll talk about the games here in a little bit. We're going to talk quickly about the Super Bowl suck. We didn't get to it last week, but it was the first week of this. So your seeding in the AFC was the Texans 1, Broncos 2, Colts 3, Steelers 4, Browns 5, Raiders 6. In the NFC, Bears 1, Rams 2, Saints 3, Cardinals 4, Falcons 5, Panthers 6. So in the first matchup, Colts versus the Raiders. The Colts advance because they lost their game, and we'll get into exactly that. The win is worth 1.5 points. They had less by half a point because they lost that game. If they would have, if the Raiders, those two games being matched up, the Raiders and the Colts, the way the Raiders won and the Colts lost, that is just the Colts' destiny to be in this tournament further. So the Colts advance. They'll play the Broncos next week. Steelers, Browns actually was a tie, but because the Browns won their game by a larger margin, they will be eliminated. And the Steelers will advance to play the Texans next week in Super Bowl of Suck conference semifinals. In the NFC, Saints and the Panthers went head-to-head. The Saints dominated, so the Panthers continue on. They'll play the Bears next week. And the Rams will face the Cardinals because the Falcons actually didn't have a terrible week, even though it was a tough luck loss. They came back pretty late in that one, but that's where we're at now. So it'll be Texans, Steelers, Broncos, Colts in the AFC, Bears, Panthers, Rams, Cardinals in the NFC. And the Cardinals are going with Trace McSorley in week number 16 against your Buccaneers on a Christmas Day primetime showing. Can we talk quickly about how the NFL got jobbed on their Christmas Day plans? Because Dolphins-Packers, I think they thought both these teams would be better. The Packers a lot better. And the Dolphins have kind of held up their things. They've fallen apart a little bit lately, 8-6. But the Packers, 6-8, are barely hanging on to playoff hopes.
I don't think many people, the only reason anyone will tune in besides of personal team allegiances, everything is closed.
Well, that one, I understand people will want to watch. Big market team that's got a lot of buzz in the Dolphins and the Packers. That's fine.
And they may have already had the Die Hard marathon.
Yeah. Game number 2, the NFL did not in any way, shape, or form get what they expected. The reigning Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams going against the offseason splash, big-time, game-breaking, league-defining change move of Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. Rams-Broncos. Oh, we're going to have possibly Brett Rippon and Baker Mayfield. Two teams both eliminated from the playoffs at this point. And then the nightcap, Cardinals and Bucks, I think they were expecting better there too. No Kyler Murray. It's just, I think the NFL tried to put big games on Christmas Day, and it just didn't work out this year. But anyways, before we go too far off the rails and into, our recaps, we're going to go over some news and notes. Yeah. Kenny Pickett for the Steelers, full practice today. Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris both limited today, just kind of personal excuses and all that kind of stuff. I don't expect any problem there.
And about, of course, Jalen Hurts. There's another quarterback, same first name as you, that is out.
Well, Matt Ryan's going to be benched for Nick Foles. Ryan Tannehill, a couple Ryan newses here. Looks like he's not going to be playing with a foot or ankle injury for the Titans. They're going to play the Texans this week. They played the first game without Ryan Tannehill, and they won, I believe it was 17-10 over Houston in that one. T. Higgins' hamstring was a full participant in practice, so he should be good to go once again. Tyler Huntley limited in practice with a right throwing shoulder injury, same one as Jalen Hurts. We'll see about Tyler Huntley, but Jalen Hurts looks like he is for sure going to miss. Corey Davis will be returning for the Jets this week. Looks like Zonovan Knight is going to be questionable. Cordero Patterson did not practice with rest. Kendall Hinton not practicing for the Broncos. Josh Allen, full participant, still dealing with that elbow injury. No need for alarm there. Chris Olave did not practice again today. We'll see if he can go. Also, not practicing for the Titans, Derrick Henry today. I don't think that's a big deal. I think that's more of a rest thing. They're going to ride him very heavily if it's not Ryan Tannehill quarterback, so might as well get him his rest during the week. Chase Edmonds going to be activated off the IR this week for the Broncos. So Chase Edmonds to the rescue, Denver. I guess that's how you want to view it. Trevor Lawrence is going to play tomorrow night, even though he's had a nagging injury. Shouldn't be a big deal there. Colt McCoy, again, out. It will be Trace McSorley, the third-string quarterback against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on Christmas night. So if you don't get Cole in your stocking in the morning, you're sure as hell are going to get some at night when you watch that game. Or maybe that's just you need some Imodium. I don't know. Let's see. Any other big news? It's actually a pretty quiet week so far. No Devontae Parker at practice. Jonathan Taylor on IR with the sprained ankle. He is done for the rest of the fantasy and the regular season. He will be back in 2023. Remember that his bad year was primarily caused by ankle sprains, not a long-term hamstring ACL type of injury. It's not something that's going to be a lingering effect going into next year, most likely.
And question, if you're a Dallas Goddard owner and you're excited about the return from IR news, should you taper your expectations? Definitely, considering Minshew Mania is now going to be possibly running wild in Philly.
Yeah, I think you temper your expectations for a lot of the players there. I think the only one that really should be not affected would be Miles Sanders, but we'll talk about why the Eagles didn't use Miles Sanders on Sunday against the Bears here in a little bit. It's tough because it's a whole different system when you're not playing with Jalen Hurts. Ken Walker and Tyler Lockett, DNPs. Tyler Lockett probably going to miss this week. Did have surgery, was successful, but probably going to miss at least a week.
Sports Shuffle Audible actually saw a legit question talking about not only Jalen Hurts, but other running quarterbacks. And the question was, considering how many running quarterbacks seem to be injured or have injuries, is this something that is sustainable in the NFL?
No. Unless you're someone like Josh Allen, who is just an absolute monster of a man. He's like 6'6", 250 something. I mean, someone like that, he can give out more punishment. You see it with Derrick Henry. He can give out more punishment than he's going to take. Or you have to have someone who's smart enough to say, I'm getting out of bounds or I'm sliding. I don't care if it costs me 4 yards less per carry. I'm getting down and I'm not getting hurt. You saw Jalen Hurts get hurt on the hit. You saw, I think, Michael Vick's career and RG3's career were damaged because, well, dogfighting for one, but a ligament injury for RG3. You have to know how to run. This is something they've been talking to Tua a lot about, and he's not a running quarterback, but he does have the mobility to get outside the pocket and run a little bit. Go down and protect yourself. Get out of bounds. If you don't protect yourself, eventually you're going to get a shot that hits your knee, hits your ankle, hits your hip, hits something in the running formation of your legs that it's going to affect you. So unless you are an absolute freak, in the terms of Josh Allen, or you are very, very smart, it's not sustainable. I think what you want is a quarterback that can run, but unlike Justin Fields and Jalen Hurts, maybe not their number one weapon is their ability to run. Yeah. So Lamar Jackson also questionable this week. I think that was the end of the news. Anywho.
Non-injury news, definitely an interesting story that broke today. Apparently, the Sunday ticket is now going to YouTube.
Has that been finalized? I know it was in deep talks.
Yeah, it was like a $2.5 billion deal or something like that. Yeah, I actually have it. Hold on, right here. It's a report from Pro Football Talk. Report YouTube to pay $2.5 billion per year to Sunday Ticket from Mike Florio. So kind of crazy that YouTube is closing in on a deal for Sunday Ticket, the out-of-market package that DirecTV exclusively had broadcast since 1994. When it debuted, that YouTube will pay $2.5 billion a year for the package. And the one question you definitely have to ask is if you've ever seen, well, how much is this YouTube TV? Anytime you've been on YouTube, it says try it free, and then you see and you're like, holy, are you kidding me, Batman? So one has to wonder, with how much in demand the NFL is. And keep in mind, this isn't Red Zone. This is Sunday Ticket, to total different entities. And keep in mind how much the Sunday Ticket was originally. You know this is going to be an a la carte package. You know YouTube is going to milk this for all it's worth. It's the NFL.
Yeah, $65 a month for YouTube TV, and then they're going to charge a premium for this package on top of it for sure. So
You
I
know
don't
it's
know if
the
this is going
NFL.
to, yeah, I don't know if this is going to help get more people to watch games. Personally, for me, I'm looking at it in the term of, well, I play hockey, and the cost for $65 a month plus the possible, I don't know, call it $500 just for the NFL package. I can play hockey for more than a year, pay for my disc golf membership and tournament fees for a year, or I can get an extra 7 to 11 football games in a given week that I can't watch because I'm playing hockey. So it's probably not something I'm going to dig into too much. But for those of you who are paying for DirecTV forever, this is actually a win for them.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with the Sirius XM NFL channel.
Yeah. Anywho, we're going to go back and look at week number 15. There were some really good games in the first window this week. So let's recap quickly the Thursday nighter. 49ers Seahawks 21-13 win for the Niners. They clinched the NFC West. Brock Purdy looked very good, but a little bit shaky. Christian McCaffrey is very, very good. And the Seahawks, well, they fall to 7-7 outside looking in on the playoffs.
Yeah, because if you didn't play one of those three players in fantasy, CMC, Kittle, or Purdy, you probably had a meh or bad night. So it was not really, it was a okay game in reality, kind of a suck game in fantasy.
Yeah. All right, we're going to start with the Saturday first game, which,
Oh
well,
no.
I will say this for about an hour and a half of the 4 hours this game was on TV. This looked like an awful game. It would be forgotten in the annals of history as just a Vikings team that didn't show up on a given day.
Yeah, I know.
33-0 lead for the Colts at halftime. And then the second half happened, Joel.
Yeah, because I know at the halftime I'm posting, can we just sim to the end? God, forget this game. Just, you're just thinking it's over. And hold the iPhone. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, 33-0 at
Mm.
halftime. You expected some I expected some garbage time scoring from the Vikings.
Yeah,
Maybe Justin Jefferson gets going a little bit. They salvage like, okay, we lost by like 15. Okay. And we're talking garbage time in the third quarter. It gets to the fourth quarter. They're down by 2 scores. And we're going, wait, garbage time's over. This is a game again. Vikings come all the way back, tie it 36-36, and win in overtime 39-36 in the greatest NFL comeback in league history of 33 points, topping the Frank Reich-led Bills 32-point comeback way back in the day. So the team they used to coach that they fired to get Jeff Saturday just set the record. Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan. Largest playoff blown lead in the 28-3 Super Bowl a few years ago in Super Bowl 51. And now has the largest regular season comeback done against him and his Colts. So I think it's time to retire. Oh, also a piece of news, though, about retirement. Matt Stafford not going to retire. That is source of Matt Stafford on his wife's podcast. So Matt Stafford is going to come back next year. I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I was talking about retirement.
Hashtag he wants the money. And do you want a fun little nugget from the comeback of the century?
Yeah.
The stage was set for the soon-to-be chaos when the Colts went confidently into the locker room, 33 zilch lead on the Vikings. Now, during halftime, of course, mascots from various professional sports took to the field to play kids in the game. Now, Blooper, the Atlanta Braves mascot, took the challenge and personally trucked 4 kids into the turf
Yes.
on this run play. Some say it was the inspirations the Vikings needed as they turned the tables in the second half, and as you know, with the field goal in overtime, came all the way back. So, do we wonder how much thanks we need to give to Blooper, the mascot?
Oh, that if you have not seen the highlights of the mascots just destroying children, please find that on YouTube. It's $64.99 a month, but you can get it probably for free because it's YouTube.
If
That
you
was fantastic.
if you have ever worked retail, you were cheering from the mascot.
Yeah. And another thing from that game that was funny, because it was a triple header all on NFL Network, they had their crew at each game. And at halftime, they would go and preview the following game and they would send it to that crew to talk. And during halftime of the Vikings Colts game, they said to the next crew, well, I hope your game does not have what happened so far in this game because this one's ugly. And then it became possibly the biggest, most classic game in regular season NFL history. So a couple real cold takes and a great just I love the mascot for the Braves now. Probably my favorite football player of all time. Anyways, the Vikings 11-3 clinch the NFC North. The Colts are eliminated from playoff contention, and we move on
So
to the second game.
as I have to say this because how many posts you saw? Jeff Saturday is the first head coach named Saturday to play on a Saturday and lose on a Saturday. So good job.
Yeah. Next up, the most boring game of Saturday: Cleveland's 13-3 win over the Baltimore Ravens. Tyler Huntley, 3 points in your fantasy league. He helped me survive because I played against him in some leagues. But the Ravens looked abysmal in this one. Not that Deshaun Watson and the Browns looked great. Only 1 touchdown in this game. But the Browns 6-8, they maintain their very, very slim playoff hopes with this win. The Ravens 9-5, they fall out of the tie in first place in the division. We'll talk about the Bengals and the team you're wearing here in a little bit. But this was an ugly, ugly game, very low scoring, and the Browns are now projected next week in the lowest over/under game in the last decade when they play the Saints at an over/under of 33.5. So Vegas not expecting the Browns to get any better.
You know, definite disappointment in this game if you played Mark Andrews, who led the Ravens in receiving, yet just converted 3 of his 7 targets for 31 yards. And just Gus Edwards, 55 yards down, 7 attempts, just I dumped him to get Sam Darnold in my one team that I'm still alive as. The J.K. Dobbins was the one positive aspect of Baltimore's offenses. Yeah, they'd probably better be glad they have all those wins because they're not having a good December.
Yeah. It was not a great game to watch. It was not a great game for fantasy. Nick Chubb was bad. J.K. Dobbins it was just bad all around.
Yeah, because they had the game they won last week, but barely squeaked by.
Yeah. All right. And then we're going to move on to what is actually, if you go start to finish, not just the net result of the greatest comeback of all time, best competitive. Go ahead.
May I throw out a virtual snowball onto the field?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I guess so. I think this is the best competitive game of the day on Saturday, without question. Obviously, the Vikings comeback was more spectacular, but the Bills winning 32-29, I think the snow actually did determine this game. The Dolphins played a great game in Buffalo. They come up just a little bit short. Tua looked like he was getting back on track, which is good. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill both with touchdowns. The Bills' Josh Allen looked fantastic in this one. So I think you saw a lot of good play in this game. The snow and the snowballs that they said, oh, we're going to call penalties. You keep doing this. No, they didn't. I think that was a big factor. I mean, they're pelting snowballs at the opponent.
The actual, if I may, actually, if I, I have to do the nerd voice anytime you go, actually, I believe what was stated was that if any of the snowballs hit anybody, the Bills will be charged 50 yards penalty.
Either way, they were trying. When the Dolphins got in the end zone, they were trying to hit them. But
Bills Mafia is crazy. When you saw how cold it was, people were shirtless. It's like, dude.
Yeah. I think as a Dolphins fan, you take away that you can go into Buffalo and short of what became whiteout conditions in the fourth quarter, you played a very good game throughout. If you're a Buffalo fan, you beat Miami, which is a team that beat you earlier in the season. A little bit disappointing for Stephon Diggs in this game, Gabe Davis, but Dawson Knox had a pretty good outcome here. But the Bills all but have the AFC East clinched at this point. If they win out, they get the 1 seed in the AFC, and home field will go through Buffalo. But I think this showed that if you're a solid team the way Miami is, the way Kansas City is, and some of these other teams in the top of the AFC, if you're a solid team, you can go into Buffalo and compete and fight and possibly pull an upset.
Yeah, because I was really rooting for the Dolphins because even though I picked the Bills, I'm going, okay, could we have another upset? Will it happen? Because upsets make the NFL more fun. And it was close, and it was just so heartbreaking at the end to see them sort of like fall so short because, oh, your Dolphins really tried. I mean, they definitely had some heart.
Yeah. As a Dolphins fan, you don't like to see them lose, but to go into that environment with the weather, because Miami is a South Florida team, I mean, it's going to be bone chilling cold in Florida this week, and it's going to be a high of 50. There are
I've got
places in the country that'll be 50 below with a wind chill this week.
I've got to hand it to both the head coach and your quarterback, who really handled all the snow criticism very nicely. As of course, Mike McDaniel's had the shirt on. I wish it were colder. I'm sure he was mocked for that, but Dolphins showed up. They came to play, and then even Tua was like, "Guys, it does snow in Alabama, so they're just trying to like, we can handle it. We can dish it out."
And honestly, they held up to the cold pretty well. The snow, a little bit different, but all in all, good performance from both sides. The Bills get a hard fought win, well deserved. Bills Mafia, you do a lot of
Cheers
good
to the
things with
cheers
this
to the
squad.
fish.
Yeah. Don't like the Bills Mafia throwing snowballs at my team, let alone anybody's team, but whatever. They're
Any
crazy.
any fan base that they purposely jump into tables, you just kind of have to question that whole sequence.
It's called frostbite of the brain, Joel. I
Oh,
swear
okay.
that's got to be what it is. All right, let's go to the NFC South because that's the division we all love to
Good,
laugh at.
good. My,
Falcons lose to the Saints
there,
twenty-one
there, there,
eighteen.
there was actually a quote from Peyton Manning. I'm sure he was being half-hearted about it, but he's like, yeah, Commissioner Roger Goodell just might cancel the entire NFC South this year.
If only you would. Saints win 21-18 over the Falcons. Desmond Ritter did not look great in his first start, but did bring the Falcons back in this game. Both teams exit 5-9, one game behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Week 16. So this division is wide open. Any team that wins out would not only win the division almost for sure, but probably have the longest win streak of anybody in that division just by winning those last 3 games. Both of these teams are bad. The Saints are playing Cleveland in what's going to be, like I just said, the lowest over-under projection in 10 years. The Falcons going to the rookie quarterback, I think they've kind of given up on the season, but with how bad this division is, you win 2 of the last 3, you got a shot here, especially depending on how your tiebreakers work. Carolina wins 2 of the last 3. I think they got it.
Yeah, you looked at this game and Ritter, I keep calling him the Riddler after because when I first saw that name, I thought of the iconic villain from the old cheesy Batman series. No, it's Ritter, not Riddler. But Ritter's incompetence as a passer. There was only one Falcon who exceeded 20 receiving yards, and that was Drake London, who got you some PPR. But for the Saints, you're looking for Alvin Kamara. You're looking for anybody, and you're going, okay, Rashid Shaheed, that definitely qualifies as that helped no one. I'm sure he wasn't rostered in too many leagues as he ended up getting everything from either Andy Dalton or from Taysom Hill as just an absolutely completely horrid game that was actually had an interesting injury happen before the game even started as the Saints player ac- accidentally accidentally knocked into the defensive coordinator of the Falcons, knocking him out and sending him to the hospital. Accidentally. That's not sus at all.
Yeah, it's not a good look, but it does, I guess, in theory, happen. Juwan Johnson, Rashid, yeah, that guy. Um, they had all the points in this one, which is not what you want for fantasy because no one's playing Juwan Johnson or Rashid Shaheem. Unless you have a deep dynasty roster. I've actually got both of them on one team that's still alive, and I'm tempted to throw one of my lineup next week because Marquise Brown doesn't look like a good play. But fantasy-wise, not a good week for anybody involved. And to continue the NFC South conversation, Panthers lose to the Mitch Trubisky led Pittsburgh Steelers 24-16. Oh, man. Uh, it's real bad for Carolina. Somehow still in control of their own destiny because they played Tampa down later in the season. The Steelers, Deontay Johnson, best game of the season, 10 for 98 yards. Mitch Trubisky looked good. It's going to be Kenny Pickett. I mean, he looked good for Mitch Trubisky, but both teams not great. Najee Harris showing signs of life is a positive, but the Panthers couldn't get anything going on the ground and just real rough.
Yeah, because Harris kept out of the end zone, not even a buck. Just Trubisky, so good for PPR, but 0 touchdowns, and you were definitely totally stymied if you started Hubbard or Deonta Foreman going, okay, show me the points, and they showed you the goose eggs or the close to the goose eggs as one of the only bright spots in Carolina, DJ Moore, 5 receptions for 73 yards and a touchdown, and man who's hopefully going to help me advance to the next round of the fantasy playoffs, good God, Sam Darnold, 14 to 23 for 225 yards and a touchdown, but just an absolute dumpster fire of a game.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on. Eagles 25-20 win over the Bears. Jalen Hurts hurt in this one, but had a really good game before that. Justin Fields is absurd at getting out of pressure in the pocket. David Montgomery, one of his best games of the season, but for some reason, Miles Sanders just not involved in any way, shape, or form in this one against a bad Bears run defense. The Bears, 3-11, have a top 5 draft pick pretty much in the bag, it looks like. The Eagles need a win or a Vikings loss in any of the next 3 weeks to clinch the number 1 overall seed. So expect Jalen Hurts to get plenty of rest between now and the postseason. Now he may rush back if the Vikings win, the Eagles lose this week or the week after. If it's still in doubt, I think they'll try and get him back a little bit sooner. It doesn't sound like it's a significant injury, but enough where going into the playoffs, you don't want to risk it.
Yeah, because one has to think that what would have happened if Hurts had an enormous second half is that A.J. Brown, halftime, only 2 passes for 25 yards, but yet he finished the game 181. And so kept out of the end zone, but some very nice PPR. And you're just going to have to wonder how much Sanders is going to feature as the prominent weapon in this offense next game with the Hurts injury. And Minshew, competent quarterback, question mark, but nothing is as good as the phenom Hurts is. It's just, he's insane every week.
Yeah, Minshew's going to be capable. He's going to be competent. If they're lucky, he'll be like Cooper Rush. He'll come in and just kind of right that ship well enough, but he's not going to be, obviously not going to be Jalen Hurts. I expect to see a lot more Miles Sanders because they didn't get him involved. He did have a costly fumble on a pretty tough play where he got the ball, barely got it tucked away on a reception and got knocked out real close to incompletion, but it does go as a fumble. But 3 carries in the first half, the first one coming halfway through the second quarter against the Chicago Bears, whose run defense is abysmal. Coaching problems in Philadelphia on that one. Hopefully they'll get that corrected going forward. Next game, a surprising, another close game for the Texans, but an overtime win for the Chiefs, 30-24. Travis Kelce had over 100 yards receiving. Jerick McKinnon, thanks for the elimination to anybody you played against. Yours truly flying right. No, running back won back-to-back weeks in the last week of the fantasy season and the first week of the fantasy playoffs. So Jerick McKinnon getting the job done. Chiefs go to 11-3. They look pretty solidly in that 1 to 3 seed range at this point. They have clinched the AFC West with this win, and the Texans find a way to lose once again.
Yeah, because it's truly amazing that the Chiefs nearly lost to the Texans, considering that Mahomes threw just 5 incompletions, although one was a very bad, just a bit outside to Valdez Scantling for a big gain, but still, 336, 2 TDs, and even scrambling for a cherry on the top with 33 rushing yards. Just the Chiefs are, you talk about contenders, you talk about pretenders, legit contenders for the Chiefs year after year after year. They just find a way to win.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the Cowboys play badly against the Texans the week before, and now the Chiefs have a tough time. Maybe the Texans are figuring something out. The Chiefs, I think it's easy to overlook teams like that. but the Chiefs are definitely a contender. They're a team that can go into Buffalo. They can go into Cincinnati. They can play at home. That's what their options are going to be in the playoffs at some point. So,
are you worried for your girlfriend team, the Texans? I know the Titans. I know how much you like them.
we'll talk about that more a little bit. But we're actually going to talk about the rapidly catching up Jacksonville Jaguars with a 40-30 win, 34 overtime interception pick six win over the Dallas Cowboys. The Jaguars go to 6-8. They control their own destiny because the Titans did lose. We'll talk more about them here shortly. The Cowboys, a bad performance against the Texans gets worse. Even though the Jaguars are a better team, this one they do not survive. This has pretty much locked them into that number 5 seed, playing the winner of the NFC South. So maybe that's what they were going for, because you can't win the division at this point without absolute anarchy in the world, pretty much. So Trevor Lawrence looked fantastic in this game. This is his first time he gets a good defense. He really showed up. Zay Jones, 3 touchdown pass. Evan Ingram looking like he's getting into a good routine here as well. So the Jaguars look like a scary team. They put a scare into the Eagles earlier. They put a scare into the Chiefs earlier. They've punched above their weight class. So maybe the Jaguars are for real.
Because I was looking at the Jags, and I'm looking at Dallas, and I know how questionable Dallas can be. I was like, okay, it's not the playoffs, so I've got to go with the Dallas Cowboys. But question is, you have to wonder, was Dallas, who has a huge road game against Philly, they have to be licking their chops now with Jalen Hurts possibly out, did they overlook this week's matchup against Jacksonville because they're going, it's Jacksonville. Philly's what's important. They're the juggernaut. They're what we need to focus on. We can just get past these guys, and we're on to Philadelphia. It turns out it was a Trevor Lawrence show. 4 touchdowns, 318 yards. The Jaguars drive in the field goal range sent the game into overtime, where of course we know Dak Prescott, that's easy for me to say, went through the game losing pick 6, and you better believe Dak Prescott was sort of looking away from Jerry Jones whenever he was in his field of vision after that.
Still not the worst way to lose a game in week 15. The Colts have won. We'll get to another shortly.
Another thing I do have to mention, thankfully, Etienne finally had a bounce back game after Zay Jones still gem of the day, but nice to see Etienne back at least more to form.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead to the Lions 20-17 win over the New York Jets, led by Zach Wilson.
I take it from the Etienne was one of the reasons you might have lost one of your fantasy.
No, he really hasn't been a factor in my season at all, but it's just hard to get excited about him because he's been so boom or bust. It was good to see him come back, but didn't help me, didn't hurt me. So it's
he vanished. He vanished for almost a month.
Yeah, he did. All right, Lions 20-17 win over the Jets. Both teams exit this game 7-7. Jets Jaguars tomorrow night is the game we're going to pick. That has massive playoff implications. Jaguars going for that division, Jets going for the wild card. So the winner of this actually has a pretty big leg up on the other. Lions 7-7. They're a half game out of the playoffs. They were at one time 1-6. I thought this Lions team was going to be better than we expected. They did not start that way. They're finally coming around. Jared Goff, I don't know if he's going to survive into next year as this team's quarterback. They might be a quarterback and some defensive pieces away from being highly competitive, but Zach Wilson, real bad.
Yeah, it was just. I know this is a little bit of fluff, but there was actually a cool video showing Zach Wilson buying his offensive line some very nice, expensive motorbikes that they're all lined up on the field. And so okay, I'm like to myself, that has to be a few bucks, but
yeah. Zach Wilson though, not good. It's going to be Zach Wilson tomorrow night, as Mike White has still not been cleared. So we'll get to the game here in a little bit, but the Jets are on life support, I think, if they lose this next game.
And you have to think about how close it was that the Jets could have won this game, because there was one unbelievable sequence where you had the Lions where Jared Goff underthrew a wide open Jamison Williams for a potential 45-yard touchdown. Then Jamal Williams had a rushing touchdown negated by a hold, and then DeAndre Swift with a run in the red zone that was wiped out by a hold. So there were so many times that the Jets could have taken the lead, but Detroit's on a mission.
Yeah, Detroit. It's going to be tough to get in that NFC playoffs. There's some good teams in front of them, but they are going in the right direction. The Jets, though, like I said, it's going to be an uphill battle. They still play Miami down the road. They still, I believe, they played New England one of the games, and Jaguars with Zach Wilson, not ideal. That being said, the Jets still have a shot, and the Lions, I think, have more of a shot than we would like to give them credit for. As we move on, my do it for the memes pick of the week, the Cardinals beating the Broncos, did not pan out. I think it's even funnier, though, because Brett Rippon has now led this team to a win and a half, and they only have 4 wins on the season. Or no, just a win. They lost last week. But he's gotten a win in one start where Wilson had 3 over 13. The Cardinals losing Colt McCoy to a concussion. That is not ideal. That was a big part of this game. I think at this point, you have to kind of turn away from all Cardinals players until, at the very least, you get Colt McCoy back, not named James Conner. Still play him. The Broncos really showing Seattle. Now you almost don't have a top 5 pick.
Yeah, because the only 2 real names that popped into my head from this game. Finally, if you can't believe it, Latavius Murray became fantasy relevant this week. A blast from the past, formerly of New Orleans, if memory serves. And the other name kept out of the end zone, but Jerry Jeudy did have 76 yards. But some points, a little scoring more for Denver than to Arizona, but not what you would call fantasy relevant for the usual suspects who you're starting and you're checking and going, why aren't you scoring anything?
Yeah, Latavius Murray, thanks for the elimination of the 16-teamer.
Yeah, because this week begins, especially this time of year, that one segment that I saw on the NFL Network, that helps no one. Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills play that game real well. All right, next up, the most embarrassing way to lose a game. Raiders 30, Patriots 24, and it was 24-17 Patriots with less than a minute left.
If we had the ability for music in the background, we would need that 70s song. I don't know if it was by the Temptations or for the Four Tops. Don't Let the Joneses Get You Down. Tell us.
I think you can play Red Hot Chili Peppers Give It Away now for this one too. Give it away now. Because Jacoby Myers.
So we'll go to Flying Ryan. How did this whole insane game, how did this game end, Sir Flying?
All right, so Patriots lead 24-17, late touchdown, controversial touchdown catch inside of the end zone. They rule it inbounds, no conclusive replay could overturn it. Tie game. Patriots get the ball back. They're driving 2 seconds left. They're just on the Raiders side of midfield. It's Hail Mary time, folks. Oh, wait. They handed off to Ramondre Stevenson, and apparently he was told, just go down. And instead of listening to the instruction, he does a pitch to Jacoby Myers, and you think, oh, they're trying to do a hook and ladder. Okay. Jacoby Myers gets into a bad situation. He's by the sideline. He's got players coming down to him. Mind you, the clock is now at 0, and the score is tied. Overtime is a fall down away. Instead of going out of bounds, falling down, or being tackled, he throws it 17 yards backwards to Mac Jones. Oh, wait, not that Jones. What's the Jones's first name for the Raiders? Chandler Jones of the Raiders, former Patriot, by the way, who he didn't see. He throws it directly to Chandler Jones, who then stiff arms Mac Jones into the earth. He is still there in the ground. He's wanting food, water, and shelter. I think someone gave him a blankie because they haven't gotten him out of the ground yet. As Chandler Jones struts to the end zone in a game that was all but guaranteed to go to overtime with zeros on the clock. If there was a play ever that was dumber, it was probably that Colts punt play that they had like the center, the quarterback, and then everybody else off to the side, and they got mauled. If there was ever a way to say, I want to lose a game, if you want to ever make the case the NFL is scripted and rigged, look at this play. It was that stupid of a play.
You do have to give Jacob E. Myers a little credit. He did stand at his locker. He did answer some of the questions from the reporters, and he didn't do like a Randy Moss and just storm off and nah, I'm not going to talk to any of y'all.
Yeah, fortunately for him, he did own it. He said he didn't see Chandler Jones there, that he was told he should have, we just got to go down. Next time he's just going to go down. But the Patriots now 7-7. They are now well behind a couple teams that are, the Chargers and the Dolphins 8-6 with 3 weeks left. The Dolphins play the Patriots down the line. This could have been a season-ending mistake in this game. The Raiders 6-8. They maintain a small shred of playoff hope with this one. But the Patriots just literally and figuratively threw this one away and possibly their entire season.
You have to wonder what was going through Jacob E. Myers' head. That day when they're like, Jacob E., yeah, he wants to see you.
Hey, can you sit down? I gotta ask. You need to explain some things.
Yeah, you got some explaining to do, Lucy. Yeah, so if you ever wondered what real life rolling a one, what that was what was like.
Yeah, that's like throwing a 1 when you only really need to roll a 2. Like, it's a bad roll, but you didn't even need to roll good to not die, and you rolled perfectly bad. Another team that's fallen apart at the seams is the Tennessee Titans. I am concerned with this Titans going forward with Ryan Tannehill's injury. The Chargers win 17-14. We had a role reversal where I picked the Chargers and you picked the Titans in this one, and it worked out for me.
But I thought it was an alternate universe for a second there.
Yeah, let's talk about the positives. Derrick Henry, pretty good game in this one. So for fantasy reasons, if you had Derrick Henry, you weren't disappointed. He wasn't the reason you lost. I lost with him in a couple teams. He was not the reason. The reason was Miles Sanders. But that being said, he was very good. Negative, Justin Herbert was not good. Mike Williams had a couple late catches that salvaged a decent day, but not a good performance by him as well. Austin Eckler was in and out of the lineup a couple times with an injury concern. So the Titans now fall to 7-7. They're only a game up on the Jaguars. And, oh, by the way, Week 18 is the head-to-head matchup between these two teams. We will see. We'll see if the Titans can hold on. Going into next week, Tennessee is playing. I have it somewhere. Houston. Derrick Henry's 200 plus 2 touchdown streak of 4 games is on the line. If he gets it again, he sets the NFL record. And for Jacksonville, they are playing. Where is it on here? The Jets tomorrow night. So both teams kind of winnable. Again, Jaguars win out. They win the South. They hold their own destiny, which is more than you could say a few weeks back or more than you expect from the start of the season.
Let me paint a picture of one of the most crazy endings, not as crazy as the previous ending, but still I really thought that the Tennessee Titans were going to right the ship, and I really thought that the Chargers were the ones that were going to disappoint us all. But tie game, as we know, 32 seconds left, no timeout. Justin Herbert, of course, connected with Mike Williams, put the Chargers in position for a game-winning field goal, and then, of course, best last name for any field goal kicker or kicker in the entire league, Cameron Dicker, split the upright from 43 yards out. And yeah, the Chargers getting closer to righting the ship, getting closer to possibly thinking playoffs. And I think the Titans have some real questions they have to answer, especially now going to the backup quarterback.
Yeah, the Chargers look all right. The Chargers right now the 6th seed in the AFC. They have jumped the Dolphins due to the tiebreaker of beating them 2 weeks ago now.
Did they ask the Dolphins if they wanted to be jumped?
No, they didn't want to be jumped, but the Dolphins didn't play well that last week. The Titans, though, are in free fall. That AFC South spot is going to be the 4 seed, just like the NFC spot's going to be the 4 seed in the NFC side of things. The Jaguars have a shot to get in the playoffs here, which is good for them. But the Titans, with Tannehill possibly being out, going to Malik Willis, the rookie, you're not feeling confident, even against a team like Houston. You've seen Houston be good the last couple of weeks against much better opposition than Tennessee's been playing like in the last few weeks. All right, now we got to talk
I,
about it.
I've I've got to take the lead on this one.
Yep, we got to
I
talk about the
must
Bucks. So
I must
I
put
was gonna
on.
I was gonna say the score and turn it over to you. So Joel,
I've got the team lead hat on for this one because it was a tale of two halves for
it was the
TB12.
best of halves. It was
It
the
was the
worst of
worst of halves
halves.
for TB12 and the Bucks. They led the Bengals, of course, 17-3 in the first half. Feeling okay? We actually have a lead. A lead. What is this lead? This is a new feeling of recent memory. But then Brady's four, like Picard and Star Trek, there are four lights. Brady's four consecutive second half turnovers allow Joe Burrow and his many weapons to get back into the game. As yeah, it was only the second time in Brady's career he turned the ball over on four consecutive drives, I believe. Three were fumbles, one was an interception. Then you had one a smattering of turnover on downs, as having done so also in 2001 versus the Broncos. Cincinnati put up 27 unanswered points, of course, to beat the Bucks. As I posted on social media, I go, well, the one positive about this week was at least we had a lead to blow. I mean, because oh good God, and the craziest thing, the nuttiest thing, the most insane freaking thing about this whole scenario. So what? So what? So what's the scenario? Scenario from of course Tribe Called Quest. What is the craziest thing about this whole scenario? Bucks are still in the lead of the division somehow. Good God, what a game. What a division. What a season. What a year. As I just I don't know what to think about the Bucks anymore. It you really want the one question that you're wondering, how good a coach is Bruce Arians? All you have to do, compare him with Todd Bowles. He's defensive minded, not competent, maybe questionable on offense. Bruce Arians got him to the freaking Super Bowl. We'll be lucky if we stumble in the playoffs this year. I'm
I
serious.
think he'd be unlucky at this point to make the playoffs because you got to think whoever loses or doesn't, the 30 teams that don't win this division are going to be top 10 draft picks, maybe right around that 10 slot. The winner of the division can at best be 19. God forbid you make a little bit of run in the playoffs and get to the divisional round. Now you have a 20 something pick. Team like Tampa and the rest of the NFC South, I think they'd be better off missing the playoffs and get that earlier draft pick.
So what were your reactions as you were watching the game and going, okay, maybe
Well,
they
let
had a
me
shot,
give you
and
my
then
point of view because I
turning the
play
team
hockey
lead,
on Sundays.
turning the team lead hat back over to you.
I play hockey on Sundays. Our game was at 6:15. So I watched till about halftime. It was 17 nothing. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were doing nothing for the fantasy team, and I had a 50-point lead in the 16 team. And I go, all right, we're going to survive and advance. The Bucks look like they're getting it back in line. I get to the rink, I look at 17-3 after halftime. I go, no big deal. Put my phone away. Come off the ice, and tragedy has occurred as the Bucks completely imploded in the second half. Burrow didn't have to do a lot, but he only had to go 20 yards for touchdown. So the
It,
Bengals do lead the AFC North after this one outright. And
fantasy, fantasy audible. Isn't it a strange week when Kirk Cousins is a better play than Joe Burrow?
well, when you have to come back from 30 points down and actually go the length of the field, not hard to do.
If the Bucks cannot beat the third string quarterback from the Cardinals, oh my good God.
Yeah, there's a lot of pain on this side. It's just a lot of sadness right now.
Hmm.
Anyways, we go from two teams leading their division to two
You would
teams
definitely have
clinging to the
the
playoffs.
Elton John "Turn 'Em On, Turn On" those sad songs that I won't sing. I
Yeah,
promise.
something like that. Two teams in the playoffs right now: Giants and the Commanders. Controversial end of this one. The Giants win 20-12. Um, Kind of a low-scoring, tough game to watch. But the Giants get a much-needed win, 8-5-1. They're now a game and a half over the teams just outside with 3 to go. So they're looking good to make the playoffs in Brian Dable's first year. The Commanders, there is talk of possibly going back to Carson Wentz. I don't know if that's going to occur, but this team has fallen on hard times once again. And if they can lose a couple games, teams like the Lions, teams like the Panthers, teams like the Packers, who are, well, not the Panthers because they can only win the division, but there's a couple teams back, the Seahawks, the Lions, and the Packers are the three I'm thinking of mostly, can sneak in for that number 7 seed. So Commanders got to get the ship rightened to have a shot. The Giants look like they're in control of their own destiny at the very least to get into the playoffs. Hopefully they can hold on.
Speaking on the controversy you were talking about, you had one sequence because I remember there's a video out there about it where Terry McLaurin was asking a ref if he was lined up properly, to which the ref responded, "Yep, no
No, no,
problem."
no, no, no. Well, hold on. He said, "Am I lined up?" The response was, "No, move up." He
Okay.
moves up, and then the ref gives him the okay. It's not that he said, "Are you lined up?" Yeah, he actually said, "Come on up. Now you're good," and then gets a penalty on the play, and it cost him the game because there was a touchdown score on that play by Brian Robinson, which also cost me a fantasy week. So fantasy weeks are hard.
Yeah, because just the whole play was just absolutely confused me because I was like, okay, how is it if they say you're okay and then they throw the flag? It's just the one thing that I notice that pervades throughout the entirety of the NFL through all fan bases this year is this one thought in unison: the officiating sucks this year, more sucky than any year in the past.
Not to mention the non-called pass interference at the end of that game. I don't know if it was one, but it was definitely a
One
little
where they
bit
looked like
sketchy.
it was a wrestling match.
Yeah, tough way for them to lose in that one. Giants, though, again, they get the tough win. These two teams tied a couple weeks ago, and they look like they were destined to do it again. And then we go to Monday Night Football. The Packers win 24-12. Thank you, Cam Akers and Christian Watson, for knocking me out of some places. Baker Mayfield did not look as good this week, but A.J. Dillon looked fantastic. Aaron Jones had a good game. Not a good game for the receivers or quarterbacks overall. Romeo Dobbs' comeback was the target leader for the Packers. The Packers 6-8 do still have. The Commanders need to lose 2 of the last 3, and the Packers have to win out, but they still have a shot at the playoffs.
Yes, yeah, this one was all pretty much about Christian Watson. Then, of course, you have definitely the bad break for Dylan leaving with the concussion, as he just as I think I saw something that he cleared protocol, as he's finally becoming fantasy relevant, about almost vanishing pretty much for the entire year, almost, maybe other than a week or two. And Rogers' final numbers very decent, actually having a good night. And one has to wonder if Watson will be feasting on Miami's secondary on Christmas, because I know you mentioned the question of these matchups weren't projected to be better before the season actually started, but it might be good in both fantasy and reality, at least that one.
Yeah, Xavier Howard doesn't usually travel with the number 1 receiver, and the secondary is beat up for Miami, so he's got a shot. But the Rams are just a really bad team. Cam Akers, though, good for him coming off that Achilles. Finally looks like he's getting right. He had some very good plays in this one. He knocked me out. Finally had a good game. But the Packers holding on to cling hopes of a playoff berth, which is the big takeaway from this game. They do play Miami on Christmas Day, where, as a Dolphins fan, I'm hoping the Packers' hopes and dreams go to die. Anywho, time for final thoughts, and I'm going to go first because I think Joel's got something a little more lighthearted than what I'm going to talk about, but we have to bring it up. The passing of a legend today. Pittsburgh Steelers are set to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. And Franco Harris, the original Immaculate Reception, passed away today, just short of the 50th anniversary. That was going to be Friday. They were retiring his number at halftime on Saturday. The Hall of Famer, the legend, it was voted the greatest play of the first 100 years of the NFL, the Immaculate Reception. Rest in peace to one Franco Harris, an absolute legend of the NFL. You will be missed, and I'm sure Pittsburgh's going to come out with a little extra fire because they're playing the team that was on the other side of the Immaculate Reception on Saturday, the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're going to come out a little bit more motivated, and I think they're still going to do the ceremony retiring his number at halftime with his family in attendance. I don't know. Or maybe they push it back until his family can be in attendance, but a tough day for the NFL as Franco Harris passes away at 72.
A little bit more lighthearted. I know I had one brutal fantasy loss this week. You had many more than I did, but I have beyond us. I actually saw a video of the most brutal way to lose in the fantasy playoffs ever. As there's a gentleman who posted a video that a league he's in has an interesting stipulation. The stipulation is this: if your kicker misses an extra point, you lose 50 points. He started Matt Gay Monday all year long. Gay had never missed an extra point yet. Monday, of course, he did. He lost 50 points and was out of the fantasy playoffs. That's my final thought. The most brutal way to lose in the fantasy playoffs, and probably a crazy stipulation that I don't think you would ever approve in any league
No,
ever, but a brutal,
no.
brutal way to lose, especially knowing how you feel about kickers.
I can think of a worse way to lose, and that's like how Aaron Rodgers took kneel downs on the one and lost like 2 or 3 tenths of a point. If that was the difference between winning and losing, those 2 or 3 tenths of a point, that's worse. That is just stupidity of a rule. Like if a lot of leagues, if you miss a kick, you lose a point. That's fine. The leagues I operate in, most of them that I'm in, they don't do that. But it does happen at times, and that's one thing. But to lose 50 on a missed extra point, that's just stupidity, and that league needs to be dissolved. Anyways, that's our time. We will be back in a couple days to go over, well, the rest of week 16. Oh wait, we got to do a quick pick, don't we? Jaguars and Jets. We got to go over this one. Fantasy option in this one: Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne for the Jaguars. For the Jets, I think it's gonna be Garrett Wilson. We don't really know what's going on with Zonovan Knight, so maybe Michael Carter in there as well. Evan Ingram's been great at the tight end position. Before we go, Joel, just quickly, who do you got tomorrow night in this matchup?
Yeah, even though I know we tend to sometimes go the complete oppo of the team that wins, I find myself last week saying, I should have picked the Jets. The Jags, the team starts with J. Should have picked the Jags over Dallas. So I'm going to pick the Jaguars just because they seem to be achieving cohesion. Trevor Lawrence seems legit. And Jets are just bouncing back and forth between quarterbacks. So that's got to be hard for the whole offense to figure out what the general rhythm is when you keep changing the general team leader. That has to be very, very disorientating. So that being said, I know that it's probably going to be the Jets. It's a prime time game on Thursday, and sometimes they go right like San Francisco against Seahawks with a predictable outcome. Sometimes they go the reverse outcome. Still, I'm going Jaguars.
Yeah, Jaguars on the road. They are going to get there before the horrible weather in New York. It's going to be very, very cold and windy on Friday, but Thursday should be okay. The reason I'm picking the Jacksonville Jaguars is simply I don't trust Zach Wilson. So that being said, we're both on Jacksonville, and that is our time because we had to make sure we got that in. Back on Friday to do the rest of the week and look ahead towards the Super Bowl suck round number 2, and hopefully fantasy success for those of us still in the leagues that we're in. So I have been flying Ryan Gilchrist along with, as always,
Tampa, what about Joel Verlin?
and with that we go.